time to think about trees. So before we learn to draw, two pretty fun ways to draw trees. It's nice to think about trees have an overall shape, and the shape is created by how the branches expand, and they expand to create certain shapes. So there's more shapes that are defining for trees that official tree experts use, but there's one shape that when the tree grows and the branches expand out, that's called round. There's one that's called oval. There's one that's called weeping. There's one that's called irregular. There's one that's called pyramidal. Think of the word pyramid, triangle. There's even a few other ones. But these are good to know about the shape of the trees so we don't end up only drawing broccoli trees. So a real fun tree to draw is a Y tree. That's the simpler one. And then I'll show you after that how to draw the overlap tree. So first thing I'm going to do is start with a pencil really quick, and I'm going to figure out, this is going to be really helpful to me, what overall shape I want to expand my branches to. So maybe I want to do a Y tree that turns out being irregular. Okay, so I'm going to draw really lightly an irregular shape. I'm thinking something that might look realistic, but sometimes trees have branches, wonky branches that stick out, and then I'll draw the trunk, but we're going to pretend this is not a solid. It's made up of a lot of branches and leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a marker so you can see it a little better, and I'll show you how to do that. You start with the trunk, and you start by making the trunk obviously a little wider where it's going to connect to the ground. And for a Y tree, you're going to split everything into a Y. That said, I'm going to tell you start out in thirds and then go to a Y. So I'm going to go up a little bit. I'm going to make a big branch go that way. I'm going to make this one bigger so that I can make this one split into two, because I think that is a little more natural. And it's also more natural if they don't split all of the same part. But then every time I make a branch, I'm going to leave it open at the end, and I'm going to split it into two. That's why they call it a Y tree. I'm going to split it into two, and then I'm going to use this outer edge as my stopping point. So then I better bring that guy over a little bit. It's kind of have to go slowly, and I make my lines curved, but you can make them straight too. That would be okay, right? So I'm using this as a stopping line. So then I'll go there, 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 and of course you can add more stuff in later, but this kind of helps it kind of have an interesting shape as you develop your tree. Does that make sense? And then in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and switch this to stop motion so you don't have to watch me do it for a really long time. Let me show you. I'll split this guy this way. I'm going to keep him pretty big there. And I recommend just do it with a pencil first, just because then if you start getting things where you don't like them, you can correct that, right? Okay, let me switch over. So now I'm going to show you how to do the overlap tree. Now you can use overlap with a Y tree, but mainly you're making your branches. You're kind of making your branches all tangle up. And there are some trees that are like this. And again, you can go ahead and make an overall shape to try to stretch it to an overall shape, or you can just see where your tangly branches end up. And this tree is a little hard until you get the hang of it, and you'll figure out how you like it. But again, go ahead and make your trunk go ahead and as I say, I think it's really way more natural to divide the tree into three main branches, but of course every tree is different, but don't have them all leave the trunk at one level. This better. And then with this, what you kind of have to do is kind of go for it. And it just really depends on the kind of tree if you think it looks realistic. But part of it's you almost have to kind of start drawing some branches, and they can go a lot of different ways. And then it's almost like spaghetti. And you can make little offshoots if you want, which is probably a good idea. You've got to get yourself some branches out there, because then you will have some branches that you can overlap with. Otherwise, it's hard to overlap when you're just starting out. So then, and I guess I kind of tend to do them wiggly, but of course they could be straighter versions if you want. I'm going to split this one up because I think now I'm going to start tangling it. Stop, start, stop, start. So I'm looking for all my obstacles there. And I kind of want this one to have some branches hanging out. So then I have to come on this side and I'll make some little branches hanging down there. So once you have a few on there, you can start adding pieces that will look a little more realistic. And then you start adding them onto here, and you start tangling them up. And of course this looks really good once you've colored it and everything's become a solid. Otherwise you're kind of drawing a maze for starting in here. I'll go ahead, and now I think you probably get it. And I'll turn this into time lapse so it can go a little quicker for you.